Hello my fragrance friends, it's Kat and I'm back today to talk about my green flags and red flags when it comes to fragrance notes. Now what that simply means is what fragrance notes do I look at and go, yep, I'm gonna like that because that is a note that I really appreciate. Whenever I smell it, I'm like, yum, I want it. And what are the notes that I avoid fragrances simply because they have them in it? I think this is interesting to do for a couple of reasons. One, it means that I can sort of track how I'm going with certain notes. So for example, rose was a scent that if you asked me 5 years ago if I'd wear a rose fragrance, my answer would be hell no. But as I've tried better rose fragrances, I'm like, that's actually a nice fragrance. So it's nice to see how your nose evolves over time, but it's also nice to know that if you're watching a fragrance reviewer or someone talk about fragrances, what notes are like, what notes they hate, what notes they love, because it can just make you a little bit more aware of how they review things. I think it gives a bit more context. I'm going to start with my green flags because it's just a little bit more positive and fun. Now, if you know me, you know I love a citrus fragrance. I love, love, love a citrus fragrance. There are a couple of notes that can go a bit funny on me, so it's not a green flag. One of them is grapefruit. Sometimes grapefruit can be really delicious. Other times it can be a bit like cloying and a bit icky to me. But the two notes that I really, really, really love, and there is no time that I don't like these notes, is yuzu and lime. Both of those, I feel like some people don't like them. They think they smell like cleaning products. But for me, I just go, they smell so uplifting and delightful. It lifts my mood. If I've got a headache, sometimes it can clear my headache. So those kind of scents I really love. All the other citruses, orange, lemon, bergamot, all those ones I really like. But again, sometimes depending on the fragrance, I might not love the fragrance. But yuzu and lime, like I will smell it if those notes are in a fragrance. I will hunt it down and I will smell it because I love them. Another one, and I'm still searching for my perfect fragrance that is just like this in a perfume bottle. Passion fruit. Again, really delightful. It's one of my favorite fruit flavors and it's definitely one of my favorite scents. So this is one that again, if you give me a really delicious passion fruit, like true passion fruit, I can't say no. I love it. Getting more into gourmand, two notes that I've noticed that I really, really like. Caramel, which is one that I didn't think I was gonna like. I thought I was gonna be more of a vanilla person, but one thing I have learned about vanilla is that a lot of it can smell a little bit plasticky, a little bit like 90s doll plastic, which I'm not a big fan of, and I smell that quite strongly. Whereas caramel, to me, if you got a caramel note, I'll give it a try. There's going to be some notes in there that maybe throw it off, but I will give it a red hot try. I also really like having some really straight up sickly sweet caramel fragrances to layer over other fragrances that I don't think are caramel enough. So caramel is my jam. I just want give me caramel. Another one is sugar or burnt sugar. Now I thought originally in my head that I would like cotton candy or fairy floss sort of notes. But what I really like is sugar. So again, when I try cotton candy notes, they often smell very plasticky and I just don't really understand, like, why has it gone so bad? But give me a sugar note and I'm like, oh, now we're talking. Back to like the fresh sort of aromatic mint. I love mint. Mint, give me mint. The problem is with mint, I can't find many fragrances that have a dominant mint scent that I love overall. There's a Lush one that goes a bit soapy. Some of them go a bit cologne-y, but mint in a fragrance, I will try because I just love that really, again, fresh, crisp smell. I think it's delightful. Ozone or like a petrichor type scent is another one that is a big green flag for me. I don't necessarily like aquatic scents all the time because again, they can delve into like cologne territory, but give me like an ozone, something like that. There's something just uplifting and delightful about it. I want to smell like air. What does that even mean? I don't know, but I want it. And the last one that I surprisingly really enjoy is ambroxan. So I can smell ambroxan. I think it's a delightful sort of clean musk on me. And so if something has a strong sort of ambroxan note to it, generally I'll dig it. Like, it would be generally a sort of subtle skin scent on me, but I still really like it. Onto the red flag fragrances. And again, this is not, look, it's not going to rule out a fragrance entirely, but it will make me not blind buy it, essentially. It's a red flag. One is a strange one. I thought I'd really like this because I like the fruit, but pear notes. For some reason, pear to my nose smells like overripe, rotting fruit. And I really find it distracting, a little bit headache inducing, and I just don't like it. Now, there are times where pear can be in a fragrance that I'm like, okay, this works really well. An example is Pear Potion by Paris Corner. This is one that I refused to buy it online, but when I smelled it in store, I realized this is actually more of an apple fragrance. The pear to me sits down in the corner and sort of minds its own business. This is more sort of apple berry, and I really like it, but that's because I don't find it super dominant. If anything has a dominant, even florals, like I've got some nice florals that have like a little bit of pear in it, and for some reason, all I can smell is this sort of nauseating, headache inducing pear, which I want to love. I want to love it. I love the fruit. In theory, I love it. For some reason, my body hates it. Another huge one, because this is a headache inducing thing, like with no doubt, is coconut. Now, I blame a medication that I had when I was little. It was like this antibiotics that I had. It was this coconut liquid, and it's just turned me off the smell of coconut and makes me feel sick ever since. So any like noticeable coconut scent in a fragrance can turn it completely for me. Even if it's just like, this isn't in the notes, but some people sort of get coconut vibes, I will avoid it because it generally spoils a fragrance for me. There are occasions where I've tried a fragrance that has coconut in it and I'm like, oh, that's not very noticeable. After I get through this list, I will actually talk a little bit about how I gauge how strong a note will be if I'm trying to blind buy something online. But yeah, coconut is a huge red flag because it is a headache trigger for me. And in saying that, a lot of nut fragrances sort of flow on from that. So almond is a no, hazelnut, bleh, I can't stand it. So nuts in general, again, it's not a hard and fast rule because there are sometimes I have fragrances where it's got a nut note in it and I'm like, oh, that's okay. Like the Sol de Janeiro 71 that has like a macadamia nut. Normally I'd be like, ooh, it's a red flag. But to me, that smells just kind of buttery. So there are exceptions, but nuts I tend to avoid. Also, one thing I found is that I smell a lot of almond notes in things that don't have almond notes listed. So for example, Bianco Latte, when I put that on for the first 2 hours, it smells like what I would describe as like an almond cream. So think of like a coconut cream, but replace coconut with almond, like an almondy creamy scent. And to me, it's like very unpleasant. Then it settles down to being delicious, but I've got to deal with 2 hours of unpleasantness to get there. So I haven't bought it. But that is something that a lot of people don't notice or don't get, but it's something that I heavily notice on my skin. The next one is probably a common one that fresh fragrance lovers, maybe gourmand lovers often avoid. Oud. Oud, it's a headache. It is a headache in a bottle. Oud is just no good. No good for me. Another one is leather. Now, leather can be something, again, if it's barely there, I can stomach it. But leather, again, is similar to oud for me. It is like, it can trigger headaches and it is not pleasant. Oh, this is a sad one for me. And I know this has been a historical thing, but it just feels like as I analyze fragrance notes, the category is getting bigger and bigger. And that is like really strong white florals. Ylang Ylang is one I avoid. So is Frangipani. So those kind of really strong white florals, it gives me an instant headache. I can't handle it. And my friend and I refer to Ylang Ylang as you know, because we see it on a fragrance note on a perfume. We're like, that is you know. Unfortunately, I can also add tuberose to that list because I bought, it looks a bit creepy, I bought Her Confession by Lattafa, hoping that this is a beautiful like maybe not too overpowering floral, creamy, vanilla-y fragrance, and all I get is a headache from tuberose. So I've tried this on my skin, I think about 4 times. Every single time it results in a headache. So I'm a little bit scared of fragrances at the moment because that is a recent blind buy and it has burnt me. So I'm a little bit like shy to blind buy again for a while. And that one is one I'm gonna have to get rid of because it is, yeah, it ruins my day. It legitimately gives me a headache and ruins my day. So ylang ylang, frangipani, tuberose, that kind of really strong white florals, I can't do. I just can't do. It's just very unfortunate. And the last one is animalic notes. On me, they are so strong. They just like, here's cat wee or whatever it happens to be. It is super strong. My nose picks it up very, very strongly. So animalic notes are ones I tend to avoid. If I'm trying to suss out what notes are prominent in a fragrance, there is a really good feature on Fragrantica where you can go down and actually vote on what you think is the prominent note and see what people have voted on. So instead of just seeing the scent sort of breakdown of the top, middle, and base notes, you can actually click a button and you'll see what are the dominant notes. That I think is very, very important if you want to track down a fragrance, but it has a note that you're like, this is not really great for me. Or it has a note that you really like, but you want it to be a dominant scent instead of just like a background scent. I would recommend doing that. The problem is with that is I find that you can't submit notes that aren't already in the fragrance breakdown. For example, if I was to do a voting thing on Bianco Latte to be like, yep, I smell a lot of almond in here, since almond isn't a note in the fragrance, I can't add it in. So it only gives you what is listed as a note, but it is a decent indication of how strong that note might be. And again, everyone's different. Some people don't smell things, some people do. But if I was to test the waters with a coconut thing or something where I'm like, I can occasionally tolerate this, if it's not a dominant thing, I will also look at that feature and just see how dominant are people finding it in the fragrance. So those are my green flags and red flags when it comes to fragrance notes. I'd love to know in the comments what your flags are, because we're all different and it's really interesting to see what thing will stop someone from buying a fragrance or make them pursue it. Like if you've got yuzu in a fragrance, I'm going to hunt it down, I'm going to smell it. So I just love to hear what your flags are. And if you happen to be a fragrance reviewer or a fragrance creator, I'd love to see your version of this just to see what gets your gears going. What do you love and what do you really, really hate? So thank you so much for watching and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.